If there wasn't probable cause, then there was nothing the police could do. They couldn't get a warrant either, right?
Your Honor, there is a civil warrant available in the state of Montana, but to answer your question, in these circumstances, given the risks, I think what Your Honor is asking is whether they could do it immediately, and it would not be easy to do that.
No, it's not a question of whether they could dispense with a warrant requirement. If there's no probable cause, then they can't get a warrant. It seems to me that if the police could not enter this house based on the facts that they knew, then I don't know when the police are ever going to be able to enter a house to prevent somebody from committing suicide. Your client's ex-girlfriend calls them, and she says that he's indicated he was going to kill himself. He was going to get a note. She heard him racking the action on a handgun. Then she heard a popping sound. Then the line went dead. She was screaming on the phone. He didn't answer. They go to the house. They try knocking on the door and yelling. They get no response. They see empty beer cans. They spoke to a neighbor who said his vehicle was parked outside. They shone a flashlight through the window. They saw his keys on the table alongside an empty holster and an apparent suicide note. I mean, what more did they need?
Justice Alito, I think what's critical here is the officer's extensive knowledge of Mr. Case. That knowledge goes back decades as to a couple of the officers. Chief Sather testified that he had known Mr. Case his whole life. Captain Heffernan also had known Mr. Case for a long period of time. But it's not just that. Officer Lindstedt had been present at a couple of the prior incidents that also involved threats of suicide and what was perceived by Officer Lindstedt as an effort to provoke a confrontation with police. That is pretty unusual to have that amount of knowledge about a specific person, and we submit that weighs against the inference.
What more would they need here? They need to be able to look through the window and see him with a gun pointed to his head, or they need to see a dead body on the floor? What more did they need?
Justice Alito, I think the question is really what you would take away if they didn't know and hadn't had such extensive experience with Mr. Case, an experience from which they drew the inference that he was unlikely to kill himself, that what he was likely to do instead was to provoke. Yes, Your Honor.
Well, I mean, you're saying that because he had threatened to kill himself before and he hadn't carried through, then there were no circumstances under which they could ever enter his house to prevent him from committing suicide if he threatened again. Is that your position?
Our position, Your Honor, is as assessed by the officers on the scene, based upon their prior experience with them, with Mr. Case, including, I would note, percipient witness experience, they drew the inference that he was unlikely to shoot himself.